Hey guys, this is Eckhart Slaughter bringing you something very, very special today that I think you guys are absolutely going to love. My friend Corey has debuted a new series on his channel where he'll be animating and examining real fleets from within the Star Wars universe. Episode 1, which I'm sharing with you guys today, is on Thrawn's fleet during the Thrawn trilogy, and you guys need to go subscribe to his channel, Corey's Datapad, right now. Just take a second before watching this video and go subscribe. Also, make sure that you check out his upload of this video, because if it's successful, he's got a whole bunch of other videos in this series planned, including some really, really cool ones that I personally want to see. So yeah, this is an amazing project. Let's see if we can go blow up his subscriber numbers and his video views. Links to both down in the description and up above. Let's roll it.
There are many famous battles and fleets within Star Wars, led by a variety of characters notable for their tactical prowess or lack thereof. When thinking of famously effective military units within the universe, few approach the level achieved by Thrawn's Armada in the Thrawn campaign. Now, the scale of Thrawn's overall forces have varied a little bit from source to source over the years as Star Wars figured out its own galactic scale, but there's always been a core of about 5 key Star Destroyers, led by Thrawn's flagship Chimera, and that core group, along with a couple other Star Destroyers, is what we're going to be focusing on today. Throughout the Thrawn trilogy, there's mentions of a few different ship classes and instances used by Grand Admiral Thrawn, but in the Thrawn trilogy sourcebook, there's a cool image breaking down Thrawn's Armada's battle lines. In that image, you have the core 5 Star Destroyers flanked by 6 strike cruisers on either side as close support, and then 11 Carrack-class cruisers as picket lines outside of that, along with an A-class or PCL freighter in front of the Star Destroyers. I've gone and made this animation to recreate that fleet makeup to visually show this core of Thrawn's forces, except for the A-class because I don't have an asset for that. And today we're going to break down the important parts of that fleet, namely the Star Destroyers, and briefly cover their history today, along with a few other Star Destroyers that were really important to what Thrawn did, but weren't included on this chart. The Carracks and strike cruisers never get a huge amount of reference, but they're shown throughout the trilogy as supportive ships and used in various operations, including being deployed on either side of a planetary shield, where one would be cloaked on the inside of the planetary shield, and that ship would fire in a synchronized way using a Dark Jedi, Joruus C'baoth, who would coordinate the firing between the ship outside the shield and the ship inside the shield to trick the planets into thinking that the Empire had access to technology which could just breach and shoot through planetary shields directly. It's not entirely clear on the diagram, but it is possible that some ships which are represented as strike cruisers on that diagram could actually have just been a variety of classes. But again, our focus today is going to be on these core 5 Star Destroyers and then 4 other Star Destroyers that play a considerable role. At the front of this line of Star Destroyers, we have the ISD-1 Stormhawk. It was Stormhawk which led the assault with the cloaked Carracks meant to trick the planet Yukio, which I mentioned earlier. Like most of the Star Destroyers we're talking about today, it potentially showed up in the video game X-Wing Alliance set before the Thrawn trilogy, which depicts all of these non-Chimera members of Thrawn's Armada as the earlier ISD-1 model, identifiable by its main bridge and the types of turrets they had. They tended to have more ion cannon power, but lacked the main powerful octuple barbette cannons of the more modern ISD-2. The Thrawn trilogy comic adaptations, though, actually show all of these Star Destroyers as ISD-2s, so I normally tend to believe that more, and it's possible that some of the ISDs that share the names with Thrawn's Armada from X-Wing Alliance are actually different ships entirely, but for the purposes of this video, I figured I'd represent all of them as ISD-1s except the Chimera. Kind of helps the Chimera stick out a little bit more. So, when you are thinking about these ships, they can either be ISD-1s or 2s depending on what you want to go off of. Secondly, behind the Stormhawk, we have the Nemesis. This ISD has some pretty limited information available about it, but it did participate in the assault at Sluis Van, where Thrawn used some small mining craft called mole miners, which he had stolen from Lando Calrissian's mining facility on the planet Nikilin, to bore into the hulls of enemy ships and deploy stormtroopers to capture those ships. Unfortunately for Thrawn, this operation was largely a failure. Han Solo was present at the Sluis Van shipyards, along with Lando himself and Luke Skywalker, so when Han noticed that their communications weren't being jammed, Lando was able to use an override code to cause the mole miners to just finish boring through the ship's hulls. Because of this, the Empire was only able to escape with a few ships, including one Mon Calamari cruiser. Overall though, the battle was one of Thrawn's few major failures. Third, bringing up the rear of this line, we have the ISD Inexorable. Inexorable is mentioned in the X-Wing novels as being under the command of Isan Isard before showing up in Thrawn's control during the Thrawn trilogy. Like with Nemesis and Stormhawk, we never get the name of the ship's captain and there's kind of limited information available about it. Under Thrawn's command, the Inexorable assaulted a New Republic starfighter base on the planet Biffash, one of Thrawn's many successful strikes in his campaign which nearly pushed the New Republic to its breaking point. It also participated in other operations under Thrawn, including the failed Battle of Sluis Van. Next up, we have the Death's Head. This Star Destroyer, commanded by Captain Harbid, actually shows up in a novel set slightly before the Thrawn trilogy called Tatooine Ghost, where sightings by the New Republic of it, the Chimera, and the Judicator are actually some of the first hints of Thrawn's upcoming campaign against the New Republic. Finally, in this main group, we have the Chimera itself. This ship, captained by Gilad Pellaeon, probably deserves a lore video of its own. After being Thrawn's flagship, it remained the flagship of Captain and then Admiral Pellaeon, up until the Battle of Duro, where the New Republic was able to capture it. It remained in the Republic's service until the Empire faked a disassembly order, sending the ship to the shipyards of Anx Minor, where it was recaptured by the Empire and once again became the flagship of Pellaeon, now in charge of essentially the entire remaining Imperial military. Well, these are the only ships present in the chart from the RPG sourcebook, which obviously isn't exhaustive. There are 4 more Star Destroyers that I think are worth highlighting for their roles in the Thrawn trilogy and beyond. First, we have Captain Brandi's Judicator. Judicator was present at the Battle of Endor, and was responsible for the capture of the mole miners used in the Battle of Sluis Van. It then led the Imperial forces capturing the 200 lost dreadnoughts of the Republic's Katana fleet, successfully reclaiming 178 of the ships, compared to the New Republic's 21. Second was another ship involved at the Battle of the Katana fleet, the Peremptory. Peremptory arrived at the already in progress battle to support Judicator. It was destroyed much to the chagrin of Captain Brandi when the New Republic rammed it with a remote-controlled Katana dreadnought, because while the Peremptory was using turbolasers, the New Republic studied the blade. Before serving with Thrawn, the Peremptory was involved in the Battle of Storinol, 8.5 years after the Battle of Yavin. In this battle, it was successfully able to disable and then recapture the ISD Rebel Dream, a ship which had already been captured by the New Republic and which had served as a flagship for Princess Leia, making it the second of this list of ships which were captured by the New Republic and then recaptured by the Empire at some point. Unlike the Chimera, Rebel Dream was once again recaptured by the New Republic later on. Third, we have the ISD Bellicose, which appeared in the Battle of Tanab and Bilbringi, theoretically under the control of Captain Aban. In reality, at Tanab, many of the ship's systems had been taken over by Joruus C'baoth, who was stationed on board the Bellicose and was able to use the Force to mind control the crew, which Aban wasn't very pleased about, but it was kind of why C'baoth was there, to help coordinate the fleet better, though he took it a little too far and started corrupting the minds of a lot of the soldiers under Thrawn's command. Finally, and probably most importantly other than the Chimera, we have the ISD Relentless under Captain Dorja. Dorja, like Pellaeon with the Chimera and Brandi with the Judicator, was present at the Battle of Endor. The role of Captain Dorja and the Relentless in the Thrawn campaign itself was actually pretty small, though it came back to the forefront 10 years later in the Hand of Thrawn duology. In those books, a con artist named Flim worked to impersonate Grand Admiral Thrawn with the support of Groden Tierce, a clone who had some of Thrawn's tactical genius, and Moff Willem Dizra, who was making a power play to try to displace Pellaeon and continue the war against the New Republic, which Pellaeon was working to bring to a close. Even though the New Republic could essentially crush the Empire whenever they wanted, Dizra stood to benefit a lot politically and financially by the wars continuing. The fake Thrawn chose Relentless as their flagship, leaving Pellaeon to wonder why Thrawn would not have come to him. Really, it was just because Pellaeon would have been too quickly able to see through the scam. After the exposure of this Thrawn as a fraud, Relentless remained under Pellaeon's command throughout at least the Yuzan Vong War, when it participated in the defense of Yagam Minor and the Battle of Esfandia. That's going to do it for our look at Thrawn's Armada, which is also our first animated video on the channel. I've been learning some more Blender and 3D animation, and with the resources from the Empire at War Expanded mod, we have a pretty big library of 3D models of Star Wars ships that I'd potentially have access to recreate some fleet breakdowns like this, or even recreate some battles when I have a bit more experience with some of the other effects and animation. Obviously, there's a lot I can still improve upon. I want to do new asteroids, I want to improve the planet assets I'm using and figure out more on how to just set up the scenes better. And the ships are obviously RTS quality models rather than CG quality models, but I think it still opens up a lot of unique possibilities. I'd like to thank Evil Bob the Bob for the Star Destroyer model and texture used in this video, Aceritzel for the Strike Cruiser and Carrack model, along with Sky for the Strike Cruiser texture and Mr. Puerto Rican for the Carrack texture. If you've enjoyed the video, consider leaving a like or subscribing for more. If there's another topic you'd like to see me cover on the channel in the future, please leave it in the comments as well. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.